Welcome everyone to the weekly top 10 list. I almost said the Monday top 10 list, but sometimes it comes on Tuesday, so it's weekly, but welcome either way. I'm Iadarola, joined as always by Francesca Fiorentini. Francesca, how's it going?
Hello everybody, this is how I talk in extra time. All the subscribers, I can be real. This is my real voice. I'm sorry, I don't know what I'm doing.
Imagine if it was.
I just want to talk like Merlin.
Feel free. So this is just for our tier 2 and tier 3 YouTube members. So thank you for, if you're watching this, you're either one of those things or you've stolen it. But either way, thank you for watching. I'm happy. So this is the first of what I hope becomes a regular thing, which is a member submitted request for a top 10 list. So in this case, we got a comment from Electric Blue Omelet Dragon, who requested favorite things you've done, discovered, or learned during quarantine. And I thought, wait, something positive about the quarantine? Not on my watch, but I couldn't come up with anything better. So I'm totally joking. So we're gonna do that because I love that as a request. So these are the top 10 good things that we've done to get through or learned during the pandemic. And Francesca, would you like to start us off with your number 5?
Sure. God, there's so many, but I think cooking. I think changing our relationship to food has been really vital for me. I obviously think that restaurants should get, small business loans and assistance and help and like get paid to close their doors to keep people safe right now. But I also think that generally our relationship in the United States to food is one of massive, eating out and consumption and like takeout and all that. And I think just having to, adult up and buy a bunch of food and learn how to cook new things and like, oh hey, I made whatever, like changing up the repertoire a little bit, challenging yourself and like kind of using it as a moment to do probably what the healthiest thing for the planet and our own bodies is, which is really to cook. Like Michael Pollan, the author who has written so many great books about it, it's basically like you gotta cook. That's kind of the main thing. It's like in all these cases. I'm not saying I don't do takeout, and I'm not saying there isn't massive amounts of trash right now, but cooking is one of the things that I think I did try to bake. I baked a birthday cake for my boyfriend, and it was so funny. This is quick, but we love the Great British Baking Show. And
Me too.
Yes, anyone who has a soul and a heart does. And so I was like really, stressing about the recipe, and I was trying to follow it to the T and letter. And I put the cake in the oven, and I was like, yes. And I turned around, and there were 2 eggs just sitting on the on the countertop. Like, hello, what about me?
I've done that.
And then I was like, oh no. And then I like took it out of the oven. I put the eggs in and like mixed them real quick and put it back in. No, it did not work. So I had to do what they do in the show, which is completely start over, no time, but you start over, and it worked.
Wow. Did you just kneel on the floor next to the thing, just looking through the glass? Because that seems to be a big part of the process.
Yes. I said, disaster.
Yeah, we've done some cooking, not as much as maybe we should have. We've started having weekly pizza from the Dough Room, which is the best pizza in LA. Oh my God, it's so good. I was cooking. I was trying to be helpful, so I cooked, and I realized that I had substituted the olive oil for vinegar. I put in instead, and it turns out that's different. That's a very different thing. So anyway, but that's not my number 5. My number 5 this is my learning one, and it was sort of how you talked about with food, learning what it is I actually need, not what I think I need. Like I thought I needed to buy clothes all the time, I guess, or like go to movies, and I still miss that, but doing okay. Like I liked eating at restaurants, but I'm doing okay. Like I can do takeout. Like it's a pruning back of all of the things you grow accustomed to, and realizing what you actually value and what you need to still have in your life to be happy. And it was less expansive than I thought it would be, and that was a good learning opportunity, I think.
Totally. Like pants, don't need them.
Don't need them.
Pants.
Bart's not picky, and no one else is here. So
yeah, it's all just from the waist up. I do feel like the waist up has been getting all the shine out of this pandemic.
After the pandemic, we're just showing butts. That's it.
It's pantsless, nothing but butts. Everyone's just walking around. No, I think that's a really important one, and I think that was maybe my number 4 is travel. I think this feels like a test run, and I've done interviews on this network about the ways that it really is a moment for us to rethink our relationship to the massive fossil fuel burning of traveling all the time. And I haven't been on a plane in March. It'll be a year, I guess, or maybe it's been a year now. And I think that I have gone on smaller like trips and vacations that are driving distance away, which is far better for the planet. And so just the idea that like you gotta travel to some far-flung country, and it absolutely is part and parcel of being in the United States and being an American with miles and sort of an entitlement to travel around the world if you are able to, and that's seen as super normal, and it's not, right? And actually for the most of the world, it's not a normal thing to just travel all over the world. And in fact, you can discover stuff locally. So I think being more local, seeing the little wine area in Southern California I never knew existed, or and supporting local economies. Like it's all about local economy. I mean, we live in this moment where everyone's like shop local, but I'm gonna go to Bali.
I'm gonna go shop local in Bali.
Yeah. And so I think we really need to rethink our, in the same way of consumption. I can't say that I have stopped buying lots of lipstick, but I will say thinking about, the amount that one needs to travel is important.
Well, my number 4 is actually related to travel as well and shopping locally, because I have a few things that are sort of new traditions that either I have developed or myself and my wife have developed as a result of the pandemic. And one is bicycling. We had bicycled before the pandemic, but starting relatively early into the pandemic, because we couldn't go to the gym and we were feeling a little bit isolated, we started going every Saturday morning. We would take a long bike ride, sometimes down to the beach, sometimes all throughout the town. And we did it every Saturday, sometimes more than once a week. I started bicycling to work a good bit, and we just got really into it. Like we saw so much of the neighborhood that we hadn't seen, riding all over the place, riding to go pick up breakfast or to go to the beach to get like a protein shake or something. And it didn't stop me from gaining a ton of weight during the pandemic or anything, but it was fun. And it was carbon neutral, I think.
Yes.
And it was a good experience. And I'm hoping to be able to continue to do it. Like it's a little bit cold right now, but once it warms up just a little bit, I'm gonna be biking again. And that's something that I'm hoping I will keep coming out of the pandemic.
Just going down to the beach to get a protein shake with my wife,
In Bali.
It's so great, and
It was fun, whatever.
I'm kidding.
That sounds Sunday, actually.
That sounds lovely. I am afraid of the bicycle, so good for you. I'm not a good biker. I'm not a good bike rider. I see a car and I'm like, ooh. Then I go into a ditch. No, I constantly think I'm going to die when I'm on a bike, but yeah.
Bike lanes, we need more of them.
We do need way more bike lanes. 3 is, I guess, similar to that. I can think 3 has to do with relationships. I think this is very, sheltering with a significant other is really hard. And I think a lot of people are either like moving in together and having babies, or like getting divorced and breaking up. And it is a very interesting moment. And I think one of the things is, we just sit on the couch and like watch a lot of TV together as couples nowadays. Netflix and chill is just like Netflix and die slowly. And so I think it is important to do new activities with your partner, and whether that is like, a 1,000-piece butterfly puzzle that I still haven't gotten over and I will never do a puzzle again, or like playing music together, or just doing a new thing together other than watching movies and your stories is really good. So I think that has been a good lesson for me, is like, oh, when you can't plan for like, oh, we always do this delayed gratification. We're gonna have a vacation in the future, and we're gonna do this in the future. And in the future, versus like right now, what are we going to do this day, this week that is new and different? How can we carve out time for ourselves? Even though we're stuck together constantly, like switch it up. And I think that's really nice.
I agree. I mean, I'm probably more okay with the stories and stuff like that, because it's a chance for my brain to shut off and just to absorb. That's what I want. But totally, yeah, I do agree. And now I feel a little bit awkward about my number 3, which was another tradition that we started, which is first every Friday night, and then after some issues with, or it was first Saturday nights, then after some issues with neighbors, it became Friday night. We do an outdoor movie night together where we rotate choosing the movie, and we make dinner, and we do popcorn, and we've done s'mores and stuff like that. And we started that immediately in lockdown the first week. And one of the women who lived in the main house, I lived in the guest house behind it, she joined us until she eventually moved. So it's been a great, like we watched a bunch of movies that we otherwise wouldn't. It's an opportunity to learn a little bit about the taste of the people that you're with. And we've kept that up until now. Like what was my Friday movie this last week? I don't remember.
Sense and Sensibility. That's what I want you to watch.
Show recently.
Sense and Sensibility with Kate Winslet and Emma Thompson. Let's have a good old girls cry. Yep, I will make you watch that.
I watched Little Women. That's close enough. Come on.
No.
Anyway, but it's been a good tradition. It is, absorbing, but it's good. I like it.
No, anyway, it's adorable.
What's your number 2? And we're gonna keep doing that after pandemic too. By the way.
Number 2 is remembering that government matters. That like, we can't smash the state just yet because we need it to tackle giant crises like a pandemic. No, but I think it really it is, obviously this is a little political, but it's very much a moment to think about. Oh yeah, there are institutions that matter in the country, like a healthcare infrastructure, like emergency response infrastructure. Like, I think that if we had a stronger federal response, stronger infrastructure, but also stronger like community response. I think that perhaps some of the communities that are doing the best are the ones that that were already strong to begin with. And so it's sort of this pitch to like, in this moment, which is so awful, where we can't really know our neighbors because we can't really get too close to them. I do think it is important to, since we are so hyper local, hyper in our homes, kind of, as we start to, if we open back up, or if we start to actually tackle this, to like remember that we need to call on an immediate and very physically close support network of a neighborhood, of a community. So I think this is very much a pitch going forward to strengthen those communities. And so yeah, government, whether it's, a community, small neighborhood council, or whether it is the federal government, matters. All this stuff has the potential to bring us together so we can problem solve.
Yeah. I hope, by the way, that some of these are very particular to us. I hope that that's for a lot of people. That'd be a useful one. The reminder of how serious this is and how significant it is. My number 2 is more personal, and it is the experience of doing the show at home, and the way that the show has changed. In some ways, we're teetering on the brink of falling apart and not even really being a political show anymore. And I don't know how it's sustainable, but it just feels a little bit different. Like I would love to, some parts I wanna go back. I wanna have Francesca in studio when we're talking to each other. I wanna not exclusively be talking to Skype, but I feel different doing the show. I feel more comfortable doing the show. We're closer to the audience in a lot of ways. All of that, those are good changes that have developed in parallel. Some almost immediately after this thing started, some more recently, and so that's been a great experience to watch that go. I hope coming out of the end of this, if that ever happens, we'll be able to take the best of both worlds. That's my hope.
Yeah, absolutely. So like a little bit more, cash, but still in the studio.
I'm not saying I don't ever want to wear a tie again. Like I do miss that, but the relationship can stay more cash.
Yeah.
I'll be right up in your face, but maybe wearing a tie at some point.
But I think it's fun because you're also kind of finding, it's an interesting time for this show because you're finding a voice as a relatively new show, although wow, how it's exploded. You're still finding the voice. And so I think it's kind of nice that like, it's a silver lining of this whole thing is that you found this like voice within a pandemic that happens to be more true to your voice and the complete Johnness and not just, it sounds like jaundice, but it's not, it's the Johnness.
It's not, although I have had that back when I was vegetarian. But yes, exactly, thank you. What's your number one?
Number one is just lots of touchy-feely, but it's just sort of remembering the people in your life who matter most to you and your loved ones. And that is parents and good friends who you always say you're gonna call, but you never really call, or you ignore their phone calls, or you don't text them back on time, and just making sure to connect to people because the future is so uncertain and we are so distant from one another. And once again, with this sort of like, rather than making plans to see you on that day or plans to see you at the holidays or plans to call you just kind of, weekly or, regularly, don't ever tell my mom I said all this because she's gonna hold me to it.
The weekly.
Yeah. Talking to your parents and your loved ones and remembering sort of who in your life matters most to you, who has shaped your life, who has been there for you, and in the in the sort of rat race of being in a career and being busy and being constantly bombarded with the news, we can easily forget those people who make us who we are. So I've kind of just been like finding myself at that 4 a.m. sort of like wide awake and like, yeah, these are the people I love. These are the people I miss. These are the people I want to tell them that I care about them regularly.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's really sweet. The only downside to that one is it's gonna make mine seem shallow. Because it ain't anything about any of that or about any people or anything real or like emotions or art or.
Is it about Marvel?
All that is true. What's that?
Is it about Marvel movies?
No, it's not about watching Marvel movies.
Okay.
Can you imagine? Well, like I watched Civil War and I was like, this is really good. Let me change it. I don't want to.
I wouldn't put it past you.
Mine is almost as shallow, but no, it's a thing I started doing, another tradition. And so I don't even know, probably like 7 months ago at this point, as many people who watch the show know, myself and two of my friends from back when I lived in Austin, we started an online writing group and we started meeting twice a week. And as a result of it, I am almost all the way through a novel that I've been writing during the pandemic. I took about a month off for a bit there for reasons I can't really get into, but just yesterday I wrote a little section. And when it's done, it's gonna be bad because I'm still new to all this.
No, that's not shallow at all.
Novel. Well, it's not about like growing reconnected with my mom or anything.
No, but like nurturing your hobbies and your interests and your talents is not shallow. In a writing group, that's amazing.
Well, thank you. It's been a good experience, and all of us have gotten a lot out of it, I think. Yeah, I guess in some way it is, but in most ways it ain't art exactly. Like I'm writing a fantasy novel, but it's been a fun experience. And I've wanted to write like my whole life. That's why I wrote my first novel, and I just haven't put nearly enough of my actual life into doing it. And this pandemic gave me a little bit of the free time, or at least free mind to do that. So that's one of the biggest things I've done during the pandemic. Not quite done yet, but neither's the pandemic. So
I know there's like there's this really selfish part of me that's like, oh good, so if I have until July when most people will be vaccinated, or August, then I can still write some stand up because my God, I have not written enough. Like when everything reopens and I'm still doing old jokes, I'll be like, damn it. But yeah, no,
you're doing jokes about how great it is to hug random people or something. It just doesn't work anymore. But anyway.
No, those are gonna work forever. Are you kidding me? Pandemic jokes, we're gonna be talking about them. First of all, if you don't like pandemic humor, who cares? Like you don't like humor. It's gonna be all that comics talk about for a very long time.
Probably.
Because it's something we all went through together, right? So
we did.
Slash, are still going through.
Are people going to lie about having been anti-maskers someday? Like when we're 70 and you find out that someone was an anti-masker, I'm still gonna judge them in 50 years, I think.
This is why the internet is the worst and the best thing ever, because there are receipts of them losing their cool and going ape at a Trader Joe's. So
yeah.
We have
That's
that
true.
On tape, Karen, and you can't escape that. Although I do want sort of the repentant Karen club at some point to form, and just in the ways that like some Q people are like, I just thought the prophecy was gonna come true, and maybe I was lied to. Like, I want that.
If they can wake up, we will welcome them home. Well, anyway, thank you, Francesca, as always, for guiding us along this top 10 list. Thank you, everybody, for being members. If you have suggestions for top 10 lists, you can, of course, respond down below. Remember, if you're a new member who has access to this, you have access to all the past ones. We have a playlist set up on the channel, so it should be fun. And we've got a lot of plans for the future. So hope you enjoy it. Thank you again for your support. We'll see you soon.